Tonight at a small UK airport, a man stole a plane, and the last message he sent over the radio shocked everyone listening. This is the story of James Holloway. The night was quiet. The airport was calm. Only a few staff members were left on duty. No one expected anything unusual. But the truth is, sometimes the most dangerous moments start with silence. James Holloway was not famous. He was not a criminal. He was a ground worker. He cleaned planes. He loaded luggage. He did the jobs nobody wanted to do. People saw him every day, but no one really saw him. He was the kind of man who could stand in a room full of people and still feel invisible. Every day, James would arrive at the airport before sunrise. He would work all day, and when the shift ended, he would go back to an empty apartment. No family waiting, no friends calling, just silence. He watched people travel to new places, while he stayed in the same place for years. The night before the incident, that night everything seemed normal. The weather was clear, the runway lights were on, the control room staff were finishing their shift. James was working as usual, but something inside him had changed. He wasn't just tired, he was broken. At around 2 a.m., James walked toward the runway. No one stopped him. No one questioned him. And then, the plane started moving, slowly at first, then faster. The control room assumed it was a technical test, but it wasn't. The plane continued, and it began to take off. The control room went into panic. They couldn't believe what was happening. One officer shouted, "How is this possible? The plane was locked." Another officer tried to contact the pilot. "Aircraft, identify yourself." The radio crackled, and then a calm voice replied, "This is James Holloway." No panic, no fear, just calm. The radio crackled again. "Aircraft, identify yourself. You are not cleared for takeoff." Silence. The control room was tense. Everyone was waiting for a response. Then a voice replied, calm and steady, "This is James Holloway." No panic, no fear, just a voice of a man who had already accepted what he was doing. In the control room, the officers looked at each other. One said, "This is impossible. How did he even get into the cockpit?" Another replied, "We need to stop him now." But the plane was already moving faster. It was as if the plane was carrying not just James, but his anger, his loneliness, his entire life. James spoke again. "You think I'm just a worker, don't you? A nobody, but I've been invisible for years." His voice sounded tired. "Every day I watched people leave, and I stayed behind. I wanted to be noticed. I wanted to be heard." The control room fell silent. James continued, "If this is the only way, then let it be the way." Then he said the line that made everyone freeze. "If I don't make it, tell my family I wasn't a bad man." Listen carefully. This was not a random act of violence. It was a desperate cry from a man who felt invisible. The plane suddenly changed direction. The control room went into full panic mode. "He's turning. He's heading towards the city." The pilots and officers tried to contact him again, but James didn't reply for a moment. Then he spoke again. James said, "I'm not doing this to hurt anyone. I just want the world to know that I existed." And then the radio went silent. For a moment, the radio went completely silent. The control room waited, but no response came. The plane was still in the air, and the whole country was about to realize that this was not just an incident, it was a story. One officer said, "He's gone silent. Did he lose signal?" Another replied, "No, he's doing this on purpose." The staff started looking at each other. They knew they were now part of something bigger. Within minutes, the police arrived at the airport. News reporters began to gather outside. People were calling their friends and family. The story was spreading like wildfire. Everyone wanted to know, who was James Holloway? Why did he do this? What was his plan? In the city, people were terrified. Every phone rang with messages. "Did you hear about the plane? Is it true? Are we safe?" People started closing their windows. They stopped walking on the streets. They were waiting for the news to say the worst investigators started checking James's background. They found that he had no criminal record, no history of violence, no evidence of terrorism. Just an ordinary man with an ordinary job. But the more they searched, the more they realized there was something strange about his life. Investigators found a notebook in James's apartment. Inside were pages filled with short messages, strange drawings, and a list of names. But one line stood out. "No one listens, so I will make them listen." The investigators were confused. What did this mean? The media started calling him the Invisible Man, the Silent Worker, the man who stole a plane. Some people called him a hero. Some called him a criminal. Some called him mentally unstable. But one thing was clear. The world was now watching him. And then something unexpected happened. A new message appeared on social media. A message from an unknown account. It said, he didn't want to die. He wanted to be heard. The investigation had just begun. Before we continue, let's recap. A man stole a plane. He spoke calmly on the radio. He said he wasn't a bad man. Then the radio went silent. Now the world is asking, why did he do it? His past investigators dug deeper into James Holloway's life. They found his childhood was not easy. He grew up in a small town in the UK. His father left when he was young. His mother worked multiple jobs just to survive. James was a quiet child. He was often bullied at school. People called him weird because he didn't talk much. He was the kind of child who listened but never spoke. After school, James started working at the airport. He thought it would be a good place. He thought he would finally belong. But the airport was full of busy people. Everyone had a purpose. Everyone had a story. James was still invisible. Years passed. James had no close friends, no romantic relationship, no family to call. He spent his days working, and his nights alone. He tried to talk to people, but no one listened. He tried to join groups, but he was always ignored. The world had trained him to stay silent. The notebook found in his apartment became the key. Investigators read it carefully. One entry said, "I don't want to die. I just want to be heard." Another entry, "If no one listens to me, I will make the world listen." And another line, "The airport is the only place where my voice can reach the sky." The truth was not a simple one. James didn't steal the plane to hurt people. He stole it because he felt forgotten. He wanted the world to look at him for once. He wanted people to say, this man existed. He wanted to be remembered. When the public learned the truth, some people felt sympathy. They started sharing messages like, "We should have noticed him. We should have helped him." Others still criticized him. They said, "He endangered lives. He should be punished." But the story had already changed something. It made people think about how many James Holloways exist in the world. And then, the most shocking detail appeared. Investigators found a recorded message on James's phone, a message he recorded just days before the incident. He said, "If they don't listen, I will make the sky listen." The investigation was far from over. Before we continue, James Holloway stole a plane. He spoke calmly on the radio. He said he wasn't a bad man. He wanted to be heard. Now the world is waiting for the final outcome. The plane was still in the air. Control room staff were trying to track it. Police were preparing for the worst. People were watching the news. But no one knew what James was planning next. Suddenly, the radio crackled again. James spoke calmly. "I'm not doing this to harm anyone. I just want to be remembered." The control room felt a strange silence. It was as if everyone had stopped breathing. James continued, "If you are listening to this, please understand me. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted the world to know that I existed." Then he said the final words, "If this is the end, then let the sky remember me." The radio went silent. The plane disappeared from the radar. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then the news confirmed the worst. The plane had crashed. No survivors. The world reacted in shock. Some people cried. Some people were angry. Some people were silent. And then the truth began to spread. James Holloway wasn't a terrorist. He wasn't a criminal. He was a lonely man who wanted to be heard. The story became a lesson. It made people ask, how many lonely people are there in the world? How many are ignored every day? How many are suffering in silence? James Holloway's final message became a warning. If someone is silent, it doesn't mean they are okay. And then, a new detail appeared. A final message was found on James's phone. It was not a confession. It was a question. He asked, If I could speak now, would anyone listen? Let's recap quickly. James Holloway stole a plane. He spoke calmly on the radio. He wanted to be heard. The plane crashed, no survivors. But the story was not over yet. Investigators found something shocking. The plane's cockpit had no sign of a struggle, no evidence of violence, no indication that James was trying to harm anyone. It looked almost peaceful. The final twist was not about the crash. It was about why James did it. Investigators discovered that James had been planning this for weeks, but not to destroy, to create a message. He had written a letter hidden inside the plane's cabin. The letter was addressed to the world. It said, "I don't want to die alone. I don't want to be forgotten. If you are reading this, then I have already won, because now you know my name." When the letter was published, people were shocked. They realized James did not want attention. He wanted connection. He wanted to be remembered. He wanted someone to say he mattered. The story changed many people. Some started calling their lonely friends. Some started checking on their neighbors. Some started listening more carefully. And for a moment, the world became a little kinder. James Holloway's story became a warning. Don't ignore the quiet ones. Don't ignore the lonely. Because sometimes their silence is a cry for help. Tonight, a man stole a plane. He did not do it for fame. He did it because he felt invisible. And when the world finally learned his name, it was too late. So next time you see someone alone, don't just look away. Say hello. Ask how they are, because you never know. Their silence may be louder than you think.